She offered him everything he'd ever wanted for his business. The only problem? Accepting it would destroy everything he'd ever built. Ryan had always trusted his gut. For 10 years, he'd been running his own consulting business, helping small companies grow and expand. He wasn't rich, but he was comfortable. More importantly, he knew how to read people. Or at least he thought he did. It was a Thursday evening in downtown Chicago, one of those networking events where business owners and investors gathered in fancy hotel ballrooms, sipping wine and exchanging business cards. Ryan normally avoided these things. They felt fake. Too many people pretending to be more successful than they really were. But his business partner convinced him to go. "You never know who you might meet," he said. Ryan walked into the ballroom already regretting his decision. The usual crowd was there. Men in expensive suits talking loudly about their latest deals. Women in designer dresses laughing at jokes that probably weren't funny. He grabbed a glass of water and found a quiet corner. That's when he saw her. She walked in like she owned the place, but not in an arrogant way. She moved smoothly through the crowd, stopping here and there to chat with people. She wore a deep red dress, simple but elegant. Her hair was pulled back, showing a face that was both beautiful and somehow trustworthy. She looked successful, confident, but not intimidating. Ryan watched her for a moment, curious. There was something about the way she carried herself. She seemed genuinely interested in the people she talked to, leaning in when they spoke, smiling at the right moments. But every now and then, when she thought no one was looking, her expression would change. Just for a second, like a mask slipping. Before he knew it, she was walking toward him. "Hiding in the corner?" she asked, her smile warm and friendly. "I don't blame you. These events can be exhausting." Ryan laughed, caught off guard. "Is it that obvious?" "Only to someone else who feels the same way," she said, extending her hand. "I'm Victoria." "Victoria Chen." "Ryan Peterson," he replied, shaking her hand. Her grip was firm, confident. They started talking, and Ryan found himself relaxing. Victoria wasn't like the other people at these events. She asked real questions about his business, seemed genuinely curious about what he did. She told him she worked in private equity, investing in promising companies that needed capital to grow. "I'm always looking for businesses with good foundations," she explained. "Companies that just need a financial push to reach the next level. From what you're telling me, you might be exactly what I'm looking for." Ryan felt a spark of excitement. His business was doing well, but he'd been wanting to expand for years. The problem was always money. Banks wanted too much paperwork, too many guarantees. Traditional investors wanted too much control. But Victoria seemed different. They talked for over an hour. She asked about his revenue, his growth projections, his plans for the future. She shared stories about other companies she'd helped, how she'd watched them grow from small operations to major players in their industries. Everything she said made sense. Everything felt right, but there was something else. Something Ryan couldn't quite put his finger on. Her smile was perfect. Too perfect, maybe, and her eyes. Those dark eyes that seemed so warm and inviting sometimes showed something else, a calculating look, a flash of something cold. It would disappear as quickly as it came, replaced by that trustworthy warmth. Ryan told himself he was being paranoid. Here was someone offering exactly what he needed, and he was looking for problems. Maybe he'd been running his business alone for too long. Maybe he'd become too suspicious of everyone. "I'd love to learn more about your company," Victoria said as the event started winding down. "Why don't we meet for coffee next week?" "No pressure, just a conversation. If it makes sense for both of us, great. If not, at least we'll have had good coffee." She handed him her business card. It was expensive, heavy paper with elegant lettering. Victoria Chen, Managing Partner, Chen & Associates Private Equity. There was a downtown address, a phone number, and email. "I'll call you," Ryan said, slipping the card into his pocket. "I hope you do," she replied, that warm smile lighting up her face. "I have a good feeling about this." Ryan drove home that night with mixed emotions. Part of him was excited. This could be the opportunity he'd been waiting for. Victoria seemed professional, knowledgeable, connected. Her investment could take his business to levels he'd only dreamed about. But another part of him, that gut instinct he'd always relied on, was sending warning signals. Something about Victoria didn't add up, the way she'd approached him so smoothly. The perfect things she'd said at the perfect moments. Those eyes that promised something different than her smile suggested. He got home and immediately Googled her name. Victoria Chen, private equity. Several results came up. A professional LinkedIn profile showing an impressive career history. A mention in a business magazine article about successful investors. A company website for Chen and Associates that looked legitimate and professional. Everything checked out. Everything looked real. So why did he still feel uneasy? Ryan spent the next 3 days thinking about it. He looked at his business numbers, his expansion plans, his dreams of what his company could become. He needed capital. He needed it badly. And Victoria was offering exactly what he needed. On Monday morning, he called her. "Ryan," she answered, her voice bright and welcoming. "I was hoping to hear from you. Have you thought about our conversation?" "I have," he said. "I'd like to meet and discuss it further." "Wonderful. How about Wednesday afternoon? There's a great cafe on Michigan Avenue. We can talk business over good coffee just like I promised." They set the time and place. Ryan hung up feeling both excited and nervous. This could change everything for his business. This could be the breakthrough he'd been working toward for years. But as he sat at his desk, staring at Victoria's business card, he couldn't shake that feeling. Her smile had said, "Trust me." Her words had said opportunity. But her eyes, those brief flashes he'd caught when she thought no one was watching, had promised something else entirely. Something that looked a lot like trouble. Wednesday came faster than Ryan expected. He spent Tuesday night preparing his presentation, printing out financial statements, organizing his business plan into a professional folder. He wanted to impress Victoria, to show her that his company was worth her investment. The cafe she'd chosen was upscale but not pretentious. Exposed brick walls, comfortable leather chairs, the kind of place where serious business happened over expensive lattes. Ryan arrived 10 minutes early, ordered a black coffee, and found a table near the window. Victoria walked in exactly on time. She wore a navy blue business suit that looked like it cost more than Ryan's monthly rent. Her hair was down today, falling in perfect waves around her shoulders. She spotted him immediately and waved, that warm smile already in place. "So good to see you again," she said, sitting down across from him. She ordered something complicated from the menu, a drink with multiple modifications that the barista wrote down carefully. Ryan opened his laptop and started his presentation. He'd worked in consulting long enough to know how to sell an idea. He walked Victoria through his company's history, showing steady growth year after year. He explained his client base, his team, his competitive advantages. Then he got to the expansion plan. "I want to open 3 new offices in the next 18 months, he explained, showing her the projected numbers. Atlanta, Austin, and Denver. These markets are underserved in our industry, and I've already done preliminary research showing strong demand. But I need capital for the build-out, hiring, and initial operations." Victoria listened intently, occasionally asking questions that showed she understood business finance. She nodded at the right moments, made notes in a leather notebook, and seemed genuinely impressed with what he was showing her. "This is exactly what I look for," she said, leaning back in her chair. "Solid foundation, clear vision, realistic projections. You're not promising the moon, just sustainable growth. I like that." Ryan felt relief wash over him. His presentation was working. Victoria was interested. This was really happening. "I think I can help you," Victoria continued. "I'm prepared to invest $200,000 in your expansion. That should cover your first 2 offices with some working capital left over." $200,000. It was more than Ryan had hoped for. It was enough to make his dreams actually happen. That's incredible," he said, trying to keep his voice professional despite his excitement. "What are the terms? What percentage of the company are we talking about?" Victoria smiled and took a sip of her complicated coffee drink. "Here's where it gets interesting. I don't want equity in your company, Ryan. I'm not interested in owning part of your business or having a say in your decisions. What I do is different." She pulled out a folder from her designer bag and placed it on the table between them. "I work with international investment partners, very wealthy individuals who are looking for promising American businesses to support. They provide the capital. I find the opportunities and manage the relationships. It's a win-win situation." Ryan opened the folder. Inside were official-looking documents with letterheads and seals that seemed legitimate. "The money comes from overseas," Victoria explained, her tone casual and reassuring. "Completely legal, of course, but because of international banking regulations, We need to move it through certain channels to avoid unnecessary complications and delays. Ryan felt his stomach tighten slightly. What kind of channels? Simple, really, Victoria said, that warm smile never faltering. My partners will send smaller payments to your business account over the next few weeks. You'll process them as payments for consulting services. Once the full amount is accumulated, it becomes your working capital for expansion. Clean, simple, efficient. Why can't they just wire the money directly? Ryan asked, his consultant brain starting to see red flags. International banking regulations, Victoria said smoothly. Single large transfers from overseas accounts trigger all sorts of reporting requirements and delays. This way is faster and avoids unnecessary bureaucracy. Many growing businesses use this approach. It's perfectly legal, just unconventional. She leaned forward, her eyes meeting his with that trustworthy warmth he'd seen at the networking event. I understand if you're hesitant, Ryan. It's not the traditional route. But traditional routes come with traditional limitations. Banks will tie you up in paperwork for months and probably reject you anyway. Conventional investors will want to control your company. My partners just want to help you grow, take their return on investment and move on. No strings attached. It sounded good. It sounded almost too good. I'd like to have my lawyer look at this, Ryan said, gesturing to the documents. For just a moment, less than a second, something flickered in Victoria's eyes. That cold calculation he'd glimpsed at the networking event. But her smile remained warm and understanding. Of course, she said brightly. Absolutely have your lawyer review everything. I'd actually be concerned if you didn't. This is a significant decision. She closed her notebook and stood up, preparing to leave. But I do need to be honest with you. Ryan, my partners are looking at several opportunities right now. I can give you a week to review everything, but after that we'll need to move forward with someone. Opportunities like this don't wait indefinitely. There it was, the pressure, the ticking clock, the subtle message that if he didn't act fast he'd lose his chance. I understand, Ryan said, standing as well. I'll get back to you by next week. Perfect, Victoria said, shaking his hand warmly. I really hope this works out, Ryan. I have a good feeling about working together. She left the cafe and Ryan sat back down, staring at the folder of documents. $200,000. No equity given up. A path to expansion that seemed almost too easy. He picked up his phone and called his old college roommate, David, who worked in financial investigation in New York. They'd kept in touch over the years, getting together whenever David visited Chicago. I need your advice on something, Ryan said when David answered. I've got a potential investor, but something feels off. Tell me about it, David said. Ryan explained the whole situation. The networking event, Victoria's proposal, the unconventional payment structure. As he talked, he could hear David's breathing change on the other end of the line. Don't do it, David said immediately. Don't even think about doing it. Why? What's wrong with it? Everything, David said, his voice serious now. What you're describing sounds exactly like a money laundering scheme. They used legitimate businesses to process illegal funds, making it look like normal business transactions. By the time you realize what's happening, you're implicated in financial crimes you didn't even know you were committing. Ryan felt his blood run cold. I think I need to talk to you in person, David continued. I'm going to make some calls. Don't contact Victoria again until we talk. And whatever you do, don't sign anything or let any money touch your accounts. Ryan left the cafe in a daze. 20 minutes ago, he'd been imagining his expanded business, his new offices, his success story. Now he was hearing words like money laundering and financial crimes. That night, he couldn't sleep. He kept seeing Victoria's smile, hearing her warm voice, remembering how trustworthy she'd seemed. But he also remembered those brief moments when her eyes had shown something different, something calculating and cold. Her smile had said, trust me. Her proposal had sounded perfect. But now Ryan was beginning to understand what her eyes had been promising all along. Trouble. Real, serious, life-destroying trouble. David arrived in Chicago 2 days later, carrying a briefcase full of documents and wearing an expression Ryan had never seen on his friend's face before. Serious, almost grim. They met at Ryan's apartment, away from his office, away from anywhere Victoria might unexpectedly appear. David spread papers across Ryan's dining room table, while Ryan made coffee with hands that shook slightly. I spent yesterday making calls, David began, organizing the documents. And what I found scared me, Ryan, really scared me. He pulled out a photograph. It showed Victoria, but the name underneath said Elena Rodriguez. "This is your Victoria Chen," David said, "except she's been Victoria Chen for maybe 6 months. Before that, she was Elena Rodriguez in Phoenix. Before that, Jennifer Walsh in Seattle. Before that, who knows?" Ryan stared at the photograph. Same woman. Same warm smile. Different name. "She's a professional," David continued, pulling out more documents. "She targets successful small business owners, people like you who have established companies and clean financial records. She offers investment deals that sound too good to be true because they are too good to be true." David spread out 4 case files across the table. Phoenix. 18 months ago, she approached a guy who owned a construction company. Same pitch as you got. He let her use his accounts to process payments from international partners. Within 3 months, $2 million in illegal funds had moved through his business. By the time federal investigators started asking questions, she'd disappeared. He lost his business, spent his life savings on lawyers, and barely avoided prison. Ryan felt sick. Seattle, 2 years ago. A woman who owned a marketing agency. Same story. She trusted Victoria or Jennifer or whatever name she was using, ended up processing money from drug trafficking operations without knowing it. Lost everything. David pulled out 2 more files. The stories were heartbreakingly similar. Good people, successful businesses, one wrong decision that destroyed their lives. "She's smart," David said. "Really smart. She never moves enough money to trigger automatic reporting requirements. She spreads it across multiple businesses so patterns are harder to detect. She builds real relationships with her victims, makes them trust her completely, and she always disappears before law enforcement can build a strong enough case." "How is she still operating?" Ryan asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Because she's good at what she does," David replied. "She changes identities, moves to new cities, alters her approach slightly each time. The victims are often too embarrassed or scared to report it immediately. By the time they do, she's already gone." Ryan put his head in his hands. He'd been so close to saying yes. If David hadn't warned him, if he hadn't followed his gut instinct and called for advice, he'd be the next victim in that pile of case files. "There's more," David said quietly. "And this is where it gets complicated." He pulled out his phone and showed Ryan an email. "I contacted an FBI agent I know who works on financial crimes. I told him about your situation. He wants to talk to you." "The FBI?" Ryan's voice came out higher than he intended. "They've been tracking Victoria or Elena or whoever she really is for almost 2 years. They know she's operating in Chicago now, but they can't find her. She's using an alias, probably fake documents, maybe even a fake office. Everything about her is designed to disappear." David looked at Ryan seriously. "They want your help. You're the first person to identify her before getting completely caught up in her scheme. You have a way to contact her. You've already established a relationship. They want you to continue it. Let them document everything and help them build a case strong enough to actually prosecute her." Ryan stood up and walked to the window. Below, the Chicago streets were busy with normal people living normal lives. People who didn't have to worry about accidentally becoming criminals. People who didn't have con artists trying to destroy their businesses. "You're asking me to become an informant," Ryan said. "I'm not asking you anything," David replied. "The FBI is asking. And I'm telling you that if you don't help stop her, she'll just move on to someone else. Some other person who's worked hard to build something, who sees an opportunity and takes it, who ends up losing everything." Ryan turned back to face his friend. "What if she figures out what I'm doing? What if she's dangerous?" "The FBI will have your back," David said. "They'll monitor everything, protect you, make sure you're safe. But I won't lie to you, Ryan. There's risk involved. She's operated for years without getting caught. She's smart, careful, and probably paranoid." Ryan thought about the other victims. The construction company owner, the marketing agency owner. People just like him who'd made one wrong decision and paid for it with everything they'd built. He thought about Victoria's smile, her warm voice, her trustworthy demeanor. All of it fake. All of it designed to manipulate and destroy. "What do I have to do?" Ryan asked. David pulled out his phone. "First, you're going to meet with Agent Williams. She'll explain everything, go over the plan, answer your questions. Then, if you agree, you'll call Victoria back and tell her you're ready to move forward. And then you help them catch her." That evening, Ryan met Agent Williams in a nondescript office building downtown. She was in her mid-40s, professionally dressed, with the kind of face that had seen too much human ugliness but hadn't stopped caring. She laid out the plan carefully. Ryan would continue his relationship with Victoria, express interest in the investment, but slow the process down enough for the FBI to document everything. He'd wear a wire to their meetings. He'd forward all emails and messages. He'd follow Victoria's instructions right up until the moment money would actually move through his accounts. "We need her to fully commit to the scheme," Agent Williams explained. "We need documentation of her explaining the process, of her knowingly using your business to launder funds. We need enough evidence that she can't claim it was a misunderstanding or that you misinterpreted her intentions." "How long will this take?" Ryan asked. "Weeks, maybe a couple of months. It depends on how quickly she wants to move. But I promise you Mr. Peterson will protect you. You'll never actually process any illegal funds. We'll stop everything before that happens." Ryan left the meeting with a recording device in his pocket and a phone number to call if anything went wrong. He walked back to his car, sat in the driver's seat, and stared at his phone. He pulled up Victoria's number. His thumb hovered over the call button. Everything in his life had been leading to a simple decision. Trust the smile or trust the eyes, believe the warm words or believe his gut instinct that something was wrong. He pressed call. "Ryan," Victoria answered on the second ring, her voice bright and welcoming. "I was hoping to hear from you. Have you had a chance to review everything?" "I have," Ryan said, his voice steadier than he felt. "I talked to my lawyer. I'm ready to move forward." "That's wonderful news," she said, and he could hear the smile in her voice. "Why don't we meet tomorrow to finalize everything? I'll have my partners send the first payment and we can get your expansion started." "Tomorrow works," Ryan said. "Same cafe?" "Perfect. I'll see you at 2 o'clock. Ryan, you're making the right decision. Your business is going to take off. I promise." She hung up and Ryan sat in his car, heart pounding. He'd just agreed to help the FBI catch a professional criminal. He'd just made himself the bait in a trap that would take weeks or months to spring. He'd just walked willingly into a situation that could put him in real danger. But he'd also decided to stop her. To prevent other people from becoming victims. To trust his instincts over her smile. Tomorrow he'd sit across from Victoria Chen, or Elena Rodriguez, or whoever she really was. He'd smile and nod and pretend to believe everything she said. He'd record every word, document every detail, and help build the case that would finally bring her down. Her smile had promised trust, but her eyes had promised trouble. And now Ryan was going to make sure that trouble came for her instead of him. Ryan barely slept that night. He kept running through scenarios in his head, imagining things going wrong. What if Victoria somehow knew he was working with the FBI? What if she searched him and found the wire? What if her international partners were actually dangerous criminals? At 7 in the morning, his phone rang. "Agent Williams, how are you feeling?" she asked. "Terrified," Ryan admitted. "Good," she said. "Fear keeps you alert. Overconfidence gets people hurt. I need you to come to our office at noon. We'll brief you, set up the recording equipment, and go over everything one more time." 2 hours before his meeting with Victoria, Ryan sat in a conference room with Agent Williams and 2 other FBI agents. They fitted him with a wire so thin and well hidden that he couldn't even tell it was there. They went over the plan repeatedly. "Your job is simple," Agent Williams explained. "Let her talk. Ask questions only to clarify things she's already mentioned. Don't push too hard or she'll get suspicious. If she wants to move faster than we'd like, tell her you need time to arrange things with your bank or your accountant. We need this to develop naturally." "What if she asked me to do something illegal right away?" Ryan asked. "Then you tell her you need to think about it. You're a cautious business owner. That's in character. But honestly, she probably won't. She'll build up to it gradually, making each step seem reasonable and minor. That's how she works." At 1:45, Ryan walked into the cafe. Victoria was already there, sitting at the same table they'd used before. She stood up when she saw him, that warm smile lighting up her face, and gave him a brief hug like they were old friends. "I'm so excited about this, Ryan," she said as they sat down. "I have a really good feeling about our partnership." Ryan smiled back, hoping it looked natural. Under his shirt, the wire felt like it weighed 100 pounds, even though he couldn't feel it at all. Victoria pulled out her leather notebook and began explaining the process in detail. She showed him paperwork from her international partners, investment forms that looked official and legitimate. She explained how the payments would be structured, how they'd appear in his accounts, how he should categorize them. "The first payment will come next week," she said. $25,000. It'll show up as payment for consulting services from a company called Atlantic Ventures Group. You'll record it as income, set it aside, and wait for the next payment." "And how many payments total?" Ryan asked. 8 over the next 6 weeks. They're spread out to avoid any automatic reporting triggers. Once you have the full 200,000, you can start your expansion. Ryan nodded, pretending to take notes while the wire recorded every word. Victoria was relaxed, confident, clearly believing that she had him completely convinced. "What about taxes?" Ryan asked. "If I'm recording all this as income, that's going to create a substantial tax liability." Victoria's smile didn't waver. "That's the beautiful part. Once all the payments are in, we'll restructure everything as an investment rather than income. My attorneys will handle all the paperwork. You'll get a refund for any taxes paid. It's all part of the process." She was good, Ryan thought. Every concern he raised, she had a smooth answer. Every question she made sound like she was protecting him. If he didn't know better, if David hadn't warned him, if he hadn't seen the case files of her other victims, he would believe every word. They talked for over an hour. Victoria explained timelines, introduced him via phone to one of her partners, a man with an accent who said very little, and had Ryan sign preliminary agreements that meant nothing, but made the scheme feel official. As they were wrapping up, Victoria reached across the table and squeezed Ryan's hand. "You're doing the right thing," she said warmly. "A year from now, you're going to look back on this moment as the decision that changed your business and your life." Ryan smiled back. "I hope so." But in his head, he was thinking, yes, this will change everything, just not in the way you think. Over the next few weeks, Ryan fell into a strange routine. He'd meet with Victoria once or twice a week, usually at the cafe, sometimes at his office. She was introducing him deeper into her world, showing him the documentation that made everything seem legitimate, explaining the business structure in ways that sounded almost reasonable. The first payment arrived in his account exactly when she said it would. $25,000 from Atlantic Ventures Group. Agent Williams had assured him this money was probably clean, used to build his trust before the real illegal funds started flowing. "Don't touch it," she'd instructed. "We'll freeze your account before any problematic money comes through. For now, let it sit there. Act grateful and excited." So Ryan thanked Victoria enthusiastically, told her how much this meant to his expansion plans, played his role perfectly. Meanwhile, the FBI was building their case. Every recorded conversation, every email Victoria sent, every document she provided was being analyzed and cataloged. Agent Williams kept Ryan updated on their progress. "She's been sloppy," Williams told him during one of their briefing sessions. "She's so confident she's got you convinced that she's not being as careful as usual. We're getting everything we need." But Victoria wasn't the only one in Ryan's life anymore. She'd introduced him to 2 of her partners via video calls. One was the man with the accent from the first call. The other was a woman named Patricia who claimed to be based in London. Both gave Ryan the same polished presentation, the same reassuring words, the same promises of wealth and success. The FBI traced their locations. Not London, not wherever the man claimed to be. Both were in the United States, probably part of Victoria's network. More evidence. More people who'd eventually face charges. 6 weeks into the operation, Victoria told Ryan it was time for the major transfer. "We're going to move $150,000 into your account next week," she said, her voice casual as if she were discussing dinner plans. "This is the big one, Ryan. After this, you'll have almost your full investment and we can start planning your first office opening." Ryan felt his stomach knot. This was it. This was the moment when real criminal money would try to enter his business accounts. This was when the FBI would need to move. "That's fantastic," he said, forcing enthusiasm into his voice. "What do I need to do?" "Nothing different than before," Victoria said, smiling. "The money will come from a company called Riverside Holdings. You'll record it as payment for a large consulting contract. The paperwork I'll send you will make everything look legitimate. Easy and simple." That night, Ryan met with Agent Williams at the FBI office. "We're going to let the transfer attempt happen," she explained. "We'll track where the money comes from, who initiates it, the entire chain. But it'll never actually reach your account. We'll intercept it and simultaneously execute arrest warrants." "How many people are you arresting?" Ryan asked. At least 7, maybe more. Victoria, her 2 partners you've met, and several others we've identified through surveillance. This is bigger than just her, Ryan. She's part of a network that's been operating for years. And when does this happen? 3 days from now, when she expects the money to arrive in your account. Instead, she's going to have FBI agents at her door. 3 days. 72 hours. Then this would all be over. Ryan continued the act. He met Victoria for coffee, expressed excitement about the upcoming transfer, signed more meaningless paperwork. She was happier than he'd ever seen her, clearly believing her scheme was about to pay off big. After this, we should celebrate, she said, during their last meeting before the planned arrest. Dinner somewhere nice. We'll toast to your success and to many more partnerships ahead. Ryan smiled and nodded, all while thinking about Agent Williams's words. 3 days from now, she's going to have FBI agents at her door. On the morning of the planned arrest, Ryan's phone rang at 6 a.m. Agent Williams, we're moving in 2 hours, she said. I wanted you to know before you saw it on the news. And Ryan, I want to thank you. What you've done took real courage. You probably saved dozens of people from becoming victims. I hope so, Ryan said quietly. One more thing, Williams added. Victoria requested a meeting with you this morning at your office. We think she wants to be there when the money arrives. We're going to let that meeting happen. When she walks into your office, we'll be right behind her. So Ryan got dressed, drove to his office, and waited. His hands were shaking. His heart was pounding. This was really happening. After weeks of deception, of pretending, of playing a role, it was all about to end. At 8:30, Victoria walked through his office door, smiling that warm, trustworthy smile. Big day, she said cheerfully. I wanted to be here when the transfer completes. We can refresh your account together and watch your future arrive. That sounds great, Ryan managed to say. Victoria sat down across from his desk, pulled out her phone, and started checking something, probably looking for confirmation that the money had been sent. Then Ryan's office door opened again. Agent Williams walked in, followed by 2 other agents. They were all wearing FBI jackets, badges clearly visible. The expression on Victoria's face was something Ryan would never forget. The warm smile disappeared instantly. Her eyes went cold, calculating, dangerous. For just a moment, she looked like a completely different person. The mask had finally fallen away completely. Victoria Chen, also known as Elena Rodriguez, Jennifer Walsh, and several other aliases, Agent Williams said formally. You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit money laundering, wire fraud, and operating a criminal enterprise. Victoria said nothing. She stood slowly, her face now completely blank. No emotion at all, as if she'd flipped a switch and turned off everything human about herself. They read her rights while putting handcuffs on her wrists. Through it all, she stayed silent, her expression neutral. As they led her toward the door, she paused and looked at Ryan. Really looked at him. For the first time, he saw her as she truly was. Not warm and trustworthy, not friendly and helpful. Just cold, calculating, and completely without remorse. You were good, she said quietly. Better than I expected. Then she was gone, led away by federal agents. Ryan sat alone in his office, hands still shaking, heart still racing. It was over. Really over. His phone buzzed. A text from David. I just heard. You okay? Ryan typed back. Yeah, I think so. But he wasn't sure that was true. He'd just helped the FBI arrest a woman who'd almost destroyed his life. He'd spent weeks pretending, lying, playing a role. He'd looked evil in the face and smiled back at it. That changes a person. Maybe not in bad ways, but in real ways. Agent Williams came back to his office an hour later. We arrested 6 others this morning, she said. Victoria's partners, people in her network. We're still tracking down a few more. But the operation is shut down. She won't hurt anyone else. What happens now? Ryan asked. She'll be charged, prosecuted, hopefully convicted. It'll take time, probably a year or more before trial. You'll need to testify, Ryan nodded. He'd known that was coming. The good news, Williams continued, is that your business is completely clear. You never actually processed any illegal funds. Your accounts are clean. Your reputation is intact. If anything, you're a hero. You helped stop a major criminal operation. After she left, Ryan sat at his desk for a long time, thinking about everything that had happened. He'd gone to a networking event looking for business opportunities. Instead, he'd found a criminal who almost destroyed him. He'd trusted his instincts, asked for help, and made the hardest decision of his life. And now it was over. He pulled up his expansion plans on his computer. The plans he'd been working on before Victoria entered his life. The legitimate plans that required real work, real sacrifice, real time to accomplish. They were still good plans. Still possible. Just harder than Victoria's too-good-to-be-true promises. But Ryan had learned something important. The hard way is usually the right way. The legitimate path is usually the better path. And when someone's smile says one thing but their eyes say something else, trust the eyes. Always trust the eyes. The story should have ended there. The bad guy caught, the good guy safe, justice about to be served. But real life is never that clean, never that simple. The consequences of Victoria's actions rippled outward for months, touching more lives than Ryan had imagined. The next day, the arrests made the news. Multi-state money laundering ring broken up by FBI was the headline in the Chicago Tribune. Ryan's name wasn't mentioned, but he recognized the story. His story. His phone started ringing. First, it was other business owners who'd encountered Victoria at networking.